Let's be honest, writing is a hobby primarily pursued by introverts. The majority of writers I know personally struggle when it comes to having conversations with other people, due in part to the fact that they spend so much time on other things. Of course, a lack of conversational experience, as with anything in writing, can harm the quality of your work, leading to stilted interactions and a disjointed feeling that makes your writing feel less natural, as well as drawing your own social skills into question. I'm joking, but in all seriousness, writing characters interacting with each other is hard for many writers because we simply don't know what makes a good interaction. Series like Monogatari hit the nail on the head in terms of execution and the feeling of a natural conversation. But why? What are these characters doing to endear us to them? How are their interactions resonating with the audience, and why is it so hard to replicate? In this video, we will be going over the intricacies of character interaction, the factors separating an author from the conversational triumphs of their dreams, and how all it takes is a good conversation to make your audience fall in love with your characters. Actually, on the topic of characters, in the early stages of even planning an interaction, it's only natural to ask yourself the simple question of who's talking. The most basic piece of advice I can give regarding writing compelling dialogue is to pay attention to who's talking. Keeping your characters in character for the majority of their interaction will prove to be an invaluable advantage when progressing into the deeper parts of your narrative. It sounds simple, but many writers often underestimate how much personality truly makes up the meat of a conversation. Monogatari excels in this aspect because every character is just overflowing with personality. Their ideologies and the way they express themselves is clear, and therefore there is ground for their interactions to stand on. They take things from their individual experiences and share them with one another. They have running jokes between each other that enhances their interactions, giving them a wider sense of familiarity, and overall, even if the interactions can be over the top at times, it all follows an internal consistency that lends itself well to the universe and makes it easier for the audience to develop a bond with them. When writing, it's quite easy for the roster of your story to become packed to the brim with characters on top of characters, a multitude of personalities and relationship dynamics to manage, any number of encounters to account for. In real life, we do this unconsciously, acting on an understanding of the people around us that we develop naturally. It's hard, however, to translate something like that onto a page without overloading your story with information and missing the point of a scene entirely. Which is why, for the sake of your writing itself, you should try to focus on what matters. Interactions between characters, in spite of all of the factors I just mentioned, are very limited in the amount of ticks you can reasonably describe on a sentence-to-sentence basis. You should not take half a page or an entire scene to detail a character's finger twitching when they talk, the slight movements of their eyebrows or otherwise. Instead, focus on what can enhance your scene, their tone of speaking, the body language they use, or what they truly mean but are trying to hide. When isolating what matters, you should think about the things you would take note of in a real conversation. The odd movements that you notice but don't ever really question, the fact that they said something they wouldn't usually say, or on the flip side, the charm of their predictability. What individual characters notice about each other during a conversation will equate to what your audience notices about that character as well. A character's habits are one thing, but perhaps the breaking of those habits can serve as an enhancement of the scene in and of itself, making the interaction more memorable or otherwise contributing to a wider understanding of a dynamic, though it's hard to maintain an audience's attention with just words alone. A conversation, especially in fiction, is deeper than two characters talking back and forth. It can also be a matter of their environment. Slapstick has been a part of media for longer than I've been alive. The Looney Tunes was never famous for having high-quality dialogue, but instead, it's the slapstick that managed to keep audiences in their seats time and time again. Due in part to this, it's not uncommon to see examples of slapstick or otherwise snappy humor in anime or cartoons in general. Everybody knows fictional characters can't feel pain, and writers have taken advantage of this law of the universe for generations on end. But what does that have to do with talking? Why do conversations require violence to be entertaining? Well, the simple answer is they don't, but they do need something of substance, and the something in question can change depending on the format of the media. Monogatari emphasizes certain parts of their dialogue with clever animation tricks, running gags, and its hypnotizing soundtrack. When writing a novel, however, things aren't so simple. This is where the environment comes in. We spent a great portion of this video discussing the characters themselves, their conduct, personalities, and how that lends to the conversations they have. But what about the setting of their conversation? Your character's reactions to their environment in the middle of a conversation can speak volumes about their personality and priorities. Hell, you see it all the time, even if you've never paid it more than a passing glance. The character's facial expressions change as things happen around them. Characters physically interact with something in the middle of a conversation, not really changing the topic itself, but drawing attention to the fact that this isn't just a white room. Instead, it's a location in your world that these characters are an active part of. None of this is complicated in the slightest, but it's something nice to remind you that these characters are characters and not just robots for the plot to command. Writing dialogue itself is inherently simple. It's nothing to write characters saying words emulating a real conversation, but an interaction requires an understanding of what people appreciate about conversations in the first place. Actions over words, or in this case, around words. We are endeared to characters due to both the actions they take and the words they say, but when writing, too often do we focus purely on the words. The beauty of writing, of animating, or making any piece of art in general, is personality. You have the freedom with your work to make these characters feel as alive as you desire, and when having them interact with each other, that's the perfect opportunity to prove just how alive they really are. When your characters interact, it's a chance to give your audience a peek into their personalities and to deepen their connection with them. But that can only happen if you have a firm understanding of your characters in the first place. If you push forward not understanding as the writer how your characters truly feel, it can rob their interactions of the impact they would have otherwise. Even with characters that are emotionally distant on purpose, the audience can feel that distance and can form a connection regardless. The purpose of an interaction is to serve as a light bulb, hanging in the minds of your audience and allowing them to develop a connection with your characters through observing their personalities, all while potentially pushing your plot forward. In order to get the most out of these interactions, to ensure that your audience will remember the small details you want them to remember, the final and most important thing to note is your creativity. Being creative is a must when making art of any level of quality. It doesn't matter how bad it is initially, as long as you have good ideas that are being expressed. Character interactions in particular can serve as good exercises of creativity. Improv is as old as time itself, and the simple activity of having two or more characters bouncing off of one another in a back and forth conversation is the best way to put those bones to work. In real life, we don't think about every word that comes out of our mouths, just enough to where we kind of know what we want to say. That gap between objective statements and subjective flair is where our personality shines. I believe that writing your characters with that understanding can lead to more realistic dialogue and memorable interactions. Think less about what they should say and more about what they would say, structuring the conversation around that instead. Like anything, writing is at its best when you stay true to yourself and your vision. Don't make your characters break character because you don't know how to move things forward. Instead, find out how you can make your character do what the plot demands while maintaining their personality and embracing their oddities. Through doing this, your audience will appreciate your character's internal consistency and will be more likely to form a connection with them, trusting that they'll stay the same or at the very least grow consistently. Things like these are difficult to balance, to maintain. When you're crafting a narrative as a writer, especially one who's well-versed, you can catch yourself asking a lot of questions. Why would he do this? How can I get them to do that? What would they say to each other if they met? These questions can seem impossible, leading you to pulling out your hair in frustration. But the key is to take a deep breath and think. Think about the characters you made. Think about their personalities and try to see them for what they are, what your vision of them is. It's your art, so as long as you ground yourself and move forward in a way that makes you feel comfortable, you will be able to craft memorable interactions, enhancing your narrative and developing characters that will grow to be fan favorites. All it takes to make the most out of your characters is a good interaction. My name is John Sage, and thanks for watching. Hello. First of all, I would like to start off by saying thank you for the immense support and just everything on the previous video. It honestly means a lot to me, and I was not expecting to reach those kinds of numbers just so soon after starting off. It's absolutely massive to me that so many of you enjoy my content and that so many of you actually want to listen to me talk about these things. And for those of you that are returning from any other video, whether it be last video or a video other than that, welcome to the channel. Feel free to subscribe. I will be trying to upload consistently. I've been pretty good at it so far. But yeah, my name is John Sage. Thank you for watching and stuff like that. Editing this video was a behemoth. I was behind schedule when I was editing, which bothered me a lot. But I managed to get the video out, and I did not let my annoyance harm my quality, which is a really big improvement for me because I really struggled with that last video, which is exactly why I'm so surprised that that video actually got the attention it did. But yeah, this video process for making this wasn't very easy. I had to lock in like a lot, but I like the way it came out. I hope you liked it as well. For those of you who are returning to the channel, like I said from last video, thank you for watching. Every view, every like, every comment, it means a lot to me. And I love to see you guys being enthusiastic about my work because, well, I'm enthusiastic about my work. But other than that, have a brilliant rest of your day. And yeah, wait, one more thing. I'm probably going to be taking something of a week break before attempting to come back and upload on a weekly schedule. This is because of the conclusion of my novel. After I finish writing Triple Threat Travesty, I'm going to give myself some time off just to kind of do a mental reset. But as soon as I come back, you guys can expect uploads every single week. I have no idea if I'm going to be able to stick to that, but I'm saying it, so I have to. But other than that, thank you for watching. You guys have been amazing. I'm so happy to have you guys as an audience. And yeah, my name is John Sage, and peace out.